When we talk about kindness, many of us mistake it for endless accommodation. We confuse being compassionate with being a doormat. But true compassion isn't about saying yes to everyone, it's about showing up authentically and sometimes saying no with grace and clarity. It's about holding yourself and others accountable in a way that reflects both courage and care. Vulnerability is often misunderstood. Many think of it as a weakness, as exposing oneself to harm or judgment. But in truth, vulnerability is the birthplace of courage, connection, and authenticity. It's not about oversharing or exposing yourself recklessly, it's about showing up as your true self and engaging with the world from a place of honesty. Yet, even as we embrace this powerful aspect of our humanity, there's an essential balance: we must strike boundaries. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we open the door to deeper relationships, meaningful conversations, and profound growth. But without boundaries, vulnerability can become a trap. It's like leaving your front door open to the world. Not everyone who walks through has good intentions. Setting boundaries doesn't mean shutting people out, it means defining what's acceptable and what's not, ensuring that your emotional energy is protected while still allowing meaningful connections to thrive. Boundaries are not walls, they're guidelines. They're the way we teach others how to treat us, and they're rooted in self-respect. When you honor your worth by setting boundaries, you send a clear message: I am valuable, and I deserve to be treated with dignity. This isn't just about demanding respect from others, it's also about respecting yourself. When you consistently say yes to things that drain you, compromise your values, or leave you feeling resentful, you diminish your sense of self-worth. Being vulnerable without boundaries often leads to overgiving, pouring into others' cups while yours runs dry. This doesn't make you a better friend, partner, or colleague. It makes you exhausted, bitter, and disconnected from your own needs. True vulnerability requires the courage to say, "This is who I am, and these are my limits." It's about showing up fully but not sacrificing yourself in the process. Setting boundaries can feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you're used to being the person who always accommodates others. You might worry about disappointing people or being labeled as difficult. But the discomfort of setting a boundary is a small price to pay for the freedom it brings. It frees you from resentment, prevents burnout, and creates space for relationships that are built on mutual respect rather than obligation. Embracing vulnerability and boundaries together is a dance of balance. It's about leaning into the discomfort of being seen and known, while also protecting your energy and ensuring that your worth is never compromised. When you do this, you stop living reactively and start living intentionally. You cultivate relationships that are meaningful and reciprocal, and you stand in your truth without fear. So embrace your vulnerability. It's one of your greatest strengths. But pair it with boundaries that honor who you are and what you deserve. Because when you respect your own worth, you inspire others to do the same. And that's where true connection begins. Compassion is often seen as an outward-facing virtue, something we extend to others in moments of empathy, kindness, and care. But true compassion, the kind that is sustainable and meaningful, begins with self-respect. Without it, our efforts to care for others can become hollow, driven by obligation or fear of disapproval, rather than genuine empathy. When we neglect self-respect, we risk losing the balance that allows compassion to flourish. Self-respect is not selfish, it is foundational. It is the acknowledgement of your inherent worth, independent of anyone else's opinions or expectations. When you respect yourself, you create a baseline for how you will be treated by others. You become more discerning about the relationships you invest in and the situations you accept. This is critical because compassion requires energy. And without self-respect, you may find yourself constantly giving to others without replenishing your own reserves. Think of compassion as a well. If you keep drawing water from it without ever refilling it, it will eventually run dry. Self-respect is the act of maintaining that well. It's about setting boundaries that protect your emotional and physical well-being, saying no when necessary, and recognizing that your needs are as valid as anyone else's. When you prioritize self-respect, you create the emotional stability and resilience needed to show up for others authentically. The irony is that neglecting self-respect often leads to a distorted form of compassion, one that is fueled by guilt, insecurity, or the desire to be liked. This isn't real compassion, it's self-sacrifice masquerading as kindness. When you overextend yourself for others without considering your own needs, you might feel resentful or depleted. This undermines the very spirit of compassion, turning what should be a gift into a burden. On the other hand, self-respect allows you to approach compassion from a place of abundance rather than scarcity. When you respect yourself, you're not giving to others because you feel obligated or because you're trying to earn their approval. You're giving because you genuinely care and because you have the capacity to do so. This kind of compassion is more impactful, more authentic, and more sustainable. Cultivating self-respect requires intentionality. It means being honest with yourself about your limits, your values, and your worth. It means making choices that align with who you are and who you want to be, even if those choices are uncomfortable or unpopular. It means recognizing that you cannot pour from an empty cup, and that filling your own cup isn't selfish, it's necessary. When you respect yourself, you set a powerful example for others. You show them that compassion doesn't have to come at the expense of your well-being. You inspire them to honor their own needs just as you honor yours. In this way, self-respect and compassion are deeply interconnected. By respecting yourself, you create the conditions for compassion to thrive not just for others, but for yourself as well. And that's where true kindness begins. Courage is often romanticized as grand, dramatic acts of bravery running into danger, standing up to injustice, or making life-altering decisions. But in our day-to-day lives, courage often looks far quieter. It's in the difficult choices we make, the boundaries we set, and the conversations we have that we'd rather avoid. At its core, courage is about choosing discomfort in the moment to avoid the far greater pain of long-term resentment. When we avoid discomfort, we tend to seek the path of least resistance. We say yes when we want to say no, we stay silent when our hearts are urging us to speak up. We go along with things that don't feel right because confrontation feels too hard. In the short term, this avoidance might seem like the safer choice. It spares us the immediate discomfort of disappointing others, facing conflict, or risking rejection. But over time, these small betrayals of our own needs and values add up. Resentment is the cost of avoiding discomfort. It's the quiet, insidious frustration that grows when you consistently put others' needs ahead of your own. It's the bitterness that takes root when you agree to things that violate your boundaries or when you suppress your truth to maintain a false sense of peace. Resentment isn't just harmful to you, it poisons relationships, undermines trust, and creates a distance between you and the people you care about. Courage, on the other hand, is a choice. It's the willingness to endure temporary discomfort in the service of long-term authenticity and well-being. It's saying this conversation might be awkward, but it's necessary. It's setting boundaries even when you fear the other person's reaction. It's being honest about your feelings, even when it feels vulnerable and raw. Choosing discomfort over resentment doesn't mean being harsh or unkind. It means being clear and truthful. Clarity is kind. When you communicate your needs or boundaries with honesty and respect, you give others the opportunity to understand and meet you where you are. You also model a healthier way of relating, one that prioritizes authenticity over appeasement. The truth is, courage is not about eliminating fear, it's about moving forward despite it. Every time you choose courage, you strengthen your ability to face discomfort and align your actions with your values. You start to trust yourself more because you know you're living in integrity. And as hard as it may feel in the moment, choosing discomfort creates a kind of freedom that resentment never can. Resentment weighs you down, while courage lifts you up. It clears the path for healthier relationships, deeper connections, and a more authentic life. So the next time you're faced with a choice between momentary discomfort and the slow, steady burn of resentment, remember this: courage may feel hard, but it's always worth it. Choosing courage isn't just a gift to yourself, it's a gift to everyone around you. It's how we grow, how we heal, and how we stay true to who we are. Authenticity is a word we hear often, celebrated as a hallmark of living a true and meaningful life. It's about showing up as your real self without pretense or masks and being honest about who you are, what you believe, and what you feel. But there's a critical element to authenticity that often gets overlooked: accountability. To be truly authentic, we must hold ourselves accountable for our actions, our impact on others, and our personal growth. Authenticity is not a free pass to act without consideration or to avoid responsibility. It doesn't mean blurting out every thought or indulging every impulse in the name of being real. Instead, it's about aligning your actions with your values and owning the consequences of those actions. Accountability ensures that your authenticity is rooted in integrity, not selfishness. Being authentic means recognizing that your words and behaviors affect others. It requires the courage to reflect on how your actions align with your intentions. Are you being honest in a way that fosters connection, or are you using honesty as an excuse to be harsh or dismissive? Are you standing in your truth while respecting the truths of others? Authenticity without accountability can easily slip into self-centeredness, where being real becomes an excuse for disregarding others' feelings or experiences. Accountability also means taking responsibility for your mistakes. No one gets it right all the time, and being authentic includes acknowledging when you've fallen short. It's about saying, I was wrong or I hurt you, and I'm sorry, and making the effort to repair the damage. This isn't a sign of weakness, it's a hallmark of strength. Owning your imperfections and striving to do better shows a deep commitment to living authentically and unethically. Furthermore, accountability is essential for personal growth. Being authentic isn't a static state, it's a journey. It requires ongoing self-reflection, a willingness to examine your beliefs and behaviors, and the humility to adapt as you learn and grow. This means being open to feedback, even when it's uncomfortable. It means recognizing when your actions are out of alignment with your values and taking steps to course correct. Authenticity also involves being accountable to the commitments you make to yourself. If you say you value honesty, are you honest with yourself about your needs and desires? If you claim to prioritize self-care, are you actually carving out time for it? Holding yourself accountable ensures that you're not just paying lip service to your values, but truly living them out. In relationships, accountability strengthens trust. When people know that you're willing to take responsibility for your actions, they feel safer being vulnerable with you. They trust that your authenticity is grounded in respect and care, not just self-expression. Authenticity without accountability is hollow. But when the two work together, they create a powerful foundation for a life of integrity, connection, and growth. By holding yourself accountable, you honor not just your own truth, but the impact you have on the world around you. That's the kind of authenticity that inspires change, builds trust, and leaves a legacy of genuine connection. Authenticity, courage, compassion, and vulnerability are not just ideals to strive for, they are practices that require intention, effort, and most importantly, balance. Together, they create the foundation for a life lived with integrity, connection, and purpose. Yet none of these qualities can stand alone. They demand accountability, boundaries, and a willingness to embrace discomfort in service of growth and truth. Choosing to live authentically means making decisions that honor both your needs and your values. It means showing up as your real self, but with the humility to acknowledge your impact on others. It's about having the courage to say no when necessary, the compassion to say yes when it matters, and the discernment to know the difference. This journey isn't always easy. It requires the bravery to face discomfort, the strength to set boundaries, and the commitment to hold yourself accountable. But the rewards are profound, deeper relationships, a stronger sense of self, and the freedom that comes with living in alignment with your truth. At the heart of it all is a simple yet powerful idea to honor your worth and respect your boundaries while also showing up with kindness and care for others. By doing so, you create a ripple effect, empowering others to do the same, fostering connections rooted in trust and respect, and leaving a legacy of authenticity and compassion. So, embrace the discomfort, own your truth, and live with intention. Because when you live authentically with courage and accountability, you not only transform your own life, you inspire others to step into their fullest, truest selves. And that is how real change begins.